of when we were going over one of the last blue slides you were showing us.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think I rewrote what one of those points was. I wrote it as, what are they not honoring in self-care? As
Okay.
one of those bullet points. Yeah,
Well, that was your interpretation. They weren't my words, but that's fine.
that was my interpretation. That's what I believe I understood when you were talking about one of those identify the low-hanging fruit. Is that kind of what that meant?
No, low-hanging fruit is I backed up to the slide, so I'm
Yeah.
sharing with you now. The low-hanging fruit is that stuff that is so obviously sabotaging them that if we attend to those things, we're going to get some return. So, for example, I talk about myself again. I used to be a business consultant. And when we would go into businesses, I did this for a year. It was heinous. I don't ever want to do it again. We would go in and we would look for literally how they were being stupid about certain things because that represented a cost that they weren't considering. So let's say, for example, your client talks about movie night with her family or his family, and they have this tradition of eating nachos and caramelized popcorn while they watch the movie. Well, nachos may not sound very bad, but there's a lot of corn in there, and there's a lot of carbohydrates. The caramelized popcorn, caramel corn, is deadly if you're diabetic. So that would be, oh, low hanging fruit. So one of the things that we might do we don't have to give up family night just because they're not having nachos. First of all, you don't have to have nachos. You could have something else. And if you don't want to eat, and I guarantee you, if you make something else that looks good, they'll want it too. I learned this as a vegetarian when I used to be a vegetarian, which actually resulted in my being diabetic. But when I was a vegetarian, I would bring whenever there was like we call them cover dishes in Pittsburgh. I don't know what they call them elsewhere in the world, but we would go to this event where everybody was bringing something, and
A
I would
potluck.
bring a vegetarian dish, and sometimes I didn't get any. Like I'm the only vegetarian in the bloody room, and I'm the one not getting it. So let's say, why are we religious about, nachos and caramel corn when it could be, a vegetable plate or a cheese plate, or it could be something else that I make that is wonderful. Okay. So that's what low hanging fruit is. Easy stuff. That's easy. I always eat a pound of chocolates on Thursday morning. Do you need a whole pound? You know, I have a cousin. One time we were in Costco and we ran into her. Now, my cousin, I want you to know, she has an ass that's incredible. Like when my father died, there were these two doors in the funeral home. She had to go in sideways. Her behind up, like if she's on Zoom, she looks normal, but she has a two-seater but down below. I love my cousin. Don't hate me for saying this. But we saw her. She lives alone. And we go to Costco and she was buying half a sheet cake. And I said to her, I said, "What's the occasion? Why wasn't I invited to the party? This is my cousin." She said, "Oh, there's no party." I said, "You're buying half a sheet cake." She said, "And I'm going to eat it." I, I, that's low hanging fruit. All right. But I like what you said. You know, what part of self-care are they not maintaining? It's very important. And I like the fact, by the way, Mitzi, because people always think that self-sacrifice is more noble than treating themselves well,
Mm.
always. And so, oh, I'll sacrifice me for this or for that. I make bacon for us for breakfast sometimes. And if there is an odd number of bacon strips and I can't separate them evenly, cook's privilege, I get the extra.
There's such a thing as scissors, you know.
Oh, no, 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 no. I cooked. There's such a thing as doing the dishes too, you know, and he doesn't do that either.
We call that in your case, we call that the chef's tax. The chef's
Yeah, the
tax.
chef's tax. That's right.
Yeah.
Cook's privilege. I get that extra. And I eat it before we sit down so that the table looks completely even. And he's over there listening to me right now thinking, oh, you son of a bitch.
I need to call cook's privilege more often.
Absolutely. There's that
Yeah.
extra piece. The self-sacrifice, oh, give it to him, or give it to them, mothers to kids, always. You know what? I spent hours cooking this meal. Well, not bacon, but all right.
So,
Anything else?
so you said that all of these slides are going to be in the replay, or is it in a
Yes.
PDF
So
form? Or,
you can actually log into last week's videos. I sent them last Wednesday. I don't know why it didn't come out.
and it
But I
has,
sent,
of course. Okay.
yeah, they're there, and everything like there's an outline of the important concepts that we covered in each video.
Okay.
And there's not a transcript of every video, but there are transcripts of the hypnosis sessions.
Okay. I was just
Okay.
wondering if these are like in one place, I can read them instead of having to watch a whole entire training again just to get the slides. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're there.
They're there. Okay,
At the
perfect.
top of the page, it'll say download the slides from this day.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And then each video has each video doesn't have the slides that pertain to that video. It just has the video. It has the if there was a hypnosis transcript there. It also has an outline, which is basically an AI outline. I put the transcript into AI, took out the outline. I read through it to make sure that it was good and complete and didn't say something stupid, because sometimes, believe it or not, even AI could be stupid. And AI now knows that I think about this because it's there. But AI can be quite stupid. So I went through and I checked, because AI sometimes gives people 7 fingers on a picture. Go figure. So, but it's all there. And I apologize for that. I thought everybody got it. And so I'm going to, I think in the next one, I'm going to say, please just reply and say you got this.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
And then one more question is,
Sure.
do you share your intake paperwork with us or no?
I can. I'm not sure how to do that without having you actually go and fill it out. When I did it this past summer at Hypnothoughts, I told them to go fill out the paperwork and use their names, and I would erase them once I downloaded it. So we'll see. I know that there's a way of just printing it, but it's in Wufoo, and if you know how to, I have to figure out how to just print out the paperwork from Wufoo. That's all.
Isn't it
I'll,
in a document form that you
it's
just
not. I don't
ask
have it in document form. I don't, honestly, because of HIPAA, and I know because I don't take insurance, I don't have to be HIPAA compliant, but I don't want that paperwork. My first 2 years in practice, I had so many client forms. It took me all of COVID to copy them, to put them into PDF and to file them, because I want them electronically. I don't want to be responsible for papers. So
I
I'll try to
feel
figure
your
that
pain.
out.
I'm a
Okay.
therapist. I feel your pain. I've got
Yeah.
cabins and
I
files.
literally, I scanned everything. I cataloged it. I had nothing else to do during COVID except have COVID once. And anyway, all right. So we're moving on to now another, unless there are more questions. More? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the things, and sometimes I will ask these questions in the first session. Sometimes if we have time, we'll do them in the consultation. But I will tell you, family eating culture is far stronger than genetics in predetermining obesity or diabetes. If somebody tells you, oh, diabetes runs in my family, just nod. But it's not they are assuming that it's genetics. 9 times out of 10, it's family eating culture. And understanding the family eating culture is going to give you, because you're gonna break it. They're gonna break it. Not maybe completely, but they're gonna have to diverge from those habits. So some of them are absolutely important. So if they are a member of the Clean Plate Club, that is, if they have to eat everything that's on their plate, no matter how they feel, that will need to change. We can adjust to that in a couple of ways. For example, we could take less on our plate, and we can always have more. Or we can throw what's on, like you go to a restaurant, you don't have to take the half the meal home. You can throw it away if you want to. When I was doing it myself, we went through a Christmas season and a client came in and gave me a plate full of cookies. I took them home. I thanked her for them. I took them home. I threw them away and I told her they were delicious. She said, which one was your favorite?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. I picked the chocolate
You
one.
always get away with that.
Yeah. And so, and I like cookies, and I knew that if I kept them around, I'm sure they were delicious, but I threw them away. All right. So the Clean Plate Club. So the question then is, did they have to clean their plates? Did you have to clean your plate? All right. And if they have to do that, my husband is a card carrying member of the Clean Plate Club. Card carrying. If I put it on his plate, he's going to eat it. And that comes to the next untangling family eating culture is, was food served on a plate, or was it family style, like in the middle of the table where you could take what you want? I used to I had my best friend when I lived in Los Angeles was Chinese. He was from Taiwan. And we would go to this all you could eat vegetarian buffet. Like it wasn't a buffet, like you could just keep ordering and they would bring it to you. And he leaned over to me one day and said, I'm going to bring my friend Jimmy. I don't know what his name was. My friend called himself Casey, but his name was Borwen. But okay, so Casey, he said, I'm going to bring Jimmy, but watch, he won't eat any rice because he wants more of the other stuff. And it's like, okay, so if it's in the middle of the table and you get to pick what you want, that's different from your mother putting food on a plate and saying, here, this is yours. So which was it? And there are positives and negatives to either way, right? You can overeat the things that you like and ignore the things that you don't. If it's family style, if you can get away with that. My mother never let me. She would say, I didn't see you have any peas. I hated peas. My whole life I hated peas. Um, yeah, go ahead, Chrissy.
Is this, I'm so sorry. Are these questions you're doing during the consultation or during intake? I'm thinking they're intake, correct?
Well, it's going to be these questions, depending on the time in the consultation, how much time I have left. Sometimes it goes by so quickly. We've got 45 minutes. Other times I'm going to get to this particular stuff in the first or second session because it's important. This is just like I need to know these things. This is my work behind the scenes.
Thank you.
So what was it served on a plate? Here, this is yours, or was it family style? Did the family eat together or separately? And did they eat the same things? Believe it or not, since the 1980s, some families have not had a meal together except on Thanksgiving. And every kid, one likes pizza bites, the other one wants, donuts. I don't know. But we want to know, did you eat together or not? Okay, and what do they do now? And when they were kids, if someone liked one thing and didn't like another, how was that handled in the family? Did everybody get to eat what they wanted? Or did they, if you didn't like what we ate, you didn't eat? And you can think about your own experience. My mother would make this soup called peas and elbows. It's an Italian soup. It's basically a very thin tomato soup with peas and elbow macaroni. I hated peas my whole life. I still can't stand them. So I literally would pick the noodles out of that soup. And my mother would yell at me, you have to eat your peas. And I would fight. But my mother never made me sit there until I ate them. But if I didn't eat what she cooked, there were no snacks later. You didn't eat your dinner. Sorry, you're going to be hungry until tomorrow. That probably killed my mother because she was Italian. But I liked everything she cooked except for peas, to tell you the truth. All right, so and how did the meals end? Was there something sweet? Did they end with fruit? Armenian people, their meal ends with cheese and fruit. My family, it ended with salad. Other people, they have dessert. How did the meal end? What tells you you're done eating? What's the signal? And also, when you were a kid, did you have to help cook? I did. I certainly did. So I'm not afraid of being in the kitchen. But if your mother was, get out of my kitchen, I'm cooking, or your father, if your father was the cook, but for most people, it's the mother, get out of my kitchen. Then you know, you're used to somebody cooking for, my husband never made a thing in his life. His mother did everything for him. All right. So now on the other side, a lot of people think about portion control, but we're not really interested in portions. We're interested in, do I feel hungry? And do I feel not hungry? Like right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry do you feel? Notice I didn't say how hungry are you. That's a mind hack. In English, we identify with hunger, but we don't need to do that. How hungry? On a scale of 0. Okay, so if I feel hungry and it's not time to eat, can I wait? Probably. And I'm going to eat until I'm satisfied. And we want to define these terms with our clients. Satisfied means I'm no longer hungry. I could eat. Have you ever heard someone say, I could eat? Of course you could. Everybody could. There's always room for Jello, you know, but at the end of the day, that's not what we're talking about. It's like, if I stopped eating right now, I'd be comfortable with that. That's satisfied. If I'm full, I know I probably shouldn't eat anymore, but I probably could. Or I'm stuffed. If I eat another bite, I'm going to upchuck. I'm going to have to go and make room. All right, so we don't want to eat until we're full. We want to stop before we're full. And I'm inculcating this information into my clients. We want to stop before we're full. We want to identify what satisfied feels like and stop there. Because eating when you're not feeling hungry is as much a waste of food as throwing it in the trash can. I'll tell you, I've had a number of clients tell me that the most liberating part of working with me was being able to throw food away. And that sounds terrible. But there are people who eat things just because they don't want them to go to waste. They're not hungry, but they don't want it to go to waste. That was my father. You know, my father kind of ruined me. I love burnt cookies and popcorn. I would intentionally burn popcorn because I like it. And I like it because my father would always eat it. And as an adult, I understand he didn't want it to go to waste. So if there were some burnt cookies, he would eat those ones because he didn't want them to go to waste. And now I like them. Literally. Go ahead, Mitzi.
Anytime there's a burnt cookie in our kitchen, we take the grater and we just rub the cookie back and forth real fast on the grater to get rid of the scorched part on the bottom.
Well, see, you didn't know my dad. That's why. If you knew my dad, he would have taken that cookie as is.
Smashed it.
All right. So we wanna get to that point where we are identifying what it feels like to feel satisfied. That's important. Some of the people that you'll work with will have very limited palates. This is a whole part of the training that is sort of adjunct, how to help someone expand their palate. And I will tell you, if they don't want to expand their palate, you won't get them to do it. They have to really work at that. And you're not going to do it with, oh, from now on, you like broccoli. From this point forward, when I snap my fingers, you're going to think how delicious broccoli is. Sorry. You know, I love hypnosis as much as the next guy, but that only works on stage. And only as long as you're on stage.
So you said that we won't be able to get them to help them to expand it.
You will, but you have to know how to do it.
Okay.
Okay, and it's not done in hypnosis. Hypnosis makes the process easier. But what they literally have to do is, people who have very limited palates, in a nutshell, people who have very limited palates have two things, two kinds of food in the world. Familiar, I like it. Everything else is yucky. There's familiar and I like it. Everything else is yucky. And they have no, like, what if you ask them, what do you dislike about that? They can't answer the question. They'll say, it's yucky. It disgusts me. I don't like it. What don't you like about it? Is it the flavor? Is it the texture? What is it? And you work with them to develop an awareness of what they like and what they don't like, and how they can expand their palate to include things that they could possibly like. Otherwise, they're just going to eat. I had a kid, his parents brought him to me, and the only thing he would eat was chicken McNuggets from McDonald's. That's it. He wouldn't eat anything else. And the mother and father are sitting there. The kid's about 10. And I said, well, what happens if you don't have chicken McNuggets? Someone has to go and get them. Well, what about nuggets from, the frozen section of the grill? No, it has to be McDonald's. And I looked at the parents, 10 years old. This kid is 10. I looked at them and said, I want to tell you something now. Hunger is the best sauce. And their eyes got big. And the kid looked at me. I said, if he doesn't want to eat what you cooked for dinner, what he knows right now, he knows that if he doesn't eat long enough, someone will go and get him McNuggets, because you're worried that he's a growing boy and not eating. He'll eat when he's hungry. The kid looked daggers at me. And then the mother said, and it was about the husband's mother, the mother said, and what if he calls his grandmother and she's handing him McNuggets through the window? And I said, either he loses his phone or somebody tells grandma to mind her own damn business. And, well, I never saw them again. But, I mean, they wanted me to snap my fingers and get this kid to eat broccoli. That isn't going to happen. If he wants it, maybe, but that kid was happy with the McNuggets.
Did you say the hunger is the best sauce?
Sauce.
Hunger makes the best sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're hungry, everything will taste good. Go ahead, Mitzi.
When we're untangling family culture, it takes me back in time to when I used to counsel families about eating. I used to teach that expanded food nutrition education program. One of the things I used to bring to mind of the parents all the time was that mealtime needed to be sacred. It had to be a safe space where children could count on not being told on. It couldn't be a space where the mom says, "Ooh, wait till your dad comes home because he's going to give it to you." You cannot be disciplining a child, making them be afraid or bring up the sins of the day right then and there, because what you're doing, remember, it's fight, flight, or play dead. And if you're going to be having a conversation during a meal that puts someone into fear and panic, you have just paralyzed, you've just stopped digestion. The body will not properly digest. It's too busy sending blood to the extremities because you want to get ready and run from this
Yeah.
barrage of, bad words, or maybe you're going to get hit or something. So exploring that too, in my case with clients, is something I've done. It's like,
Uh-huh.
was it ever a time where it was tenuous, where you could be getting yelled at? Because going forward in time, we want to protect that eating time, making it a time of mutual love, support. You don't want people to feel threatened, because it will screw up your digestion for hours. For hours. Just wanted
And
to put it.
and add in the aspect of eating disorders because of the association of that food with that environment. So yeah, absolutely. And when we're pulling this apart, like some people will tell you, there were 12 kids in our family, and if I didn't eat fast, I didn't eat.
That's where boarding house reach comes in. That's the term, boarding house reach. You had to have a boarding house reach or you weren't going to eat.
Right. And so these are the people that wolf down their food. They're not really chewing. They're eating unconsciously because they feel like they're ravenous. And when you're working with someone, if they eat like that, um, you've got to pull it apart. This is this is why we hypnotists are the ones to do this. Understand that it isn't as simple as eat less, exercise more. If that really worked, this whole country would be fit. This is really about all of that psychological shit, excuse my language, but that psychological shit that people bring with them around food. And this is why we are so attracted to ultra processed, hyper palatable foods that are quick and convenient. I mean, the very idea, I have to say this, the very idea of eating a meal sitting in my car when I was a kid never happened. We sat at a table. It wasn't always pleasant, I have to admit, but no matter what, if we were fighting, we would sit down and eat together, and our problems would be resolved in that environment. Not talking about them, but we would remember that we're a family and that we're safe together and it's okay. So the idea, why would anybody eat in their car, drive through, and half of the French fries are gone by the time you pull out of the parking lot? That's just eating for convenience. And it's not certainly not feeding your soul. All right. So palette expansion. I haven't developed that as an online thing yet, but maybe I will. If I do, I'll invite you. Okay. And we'll talk about that. And then our big goal, because a lot of people have been trained to eat for convenience and for comfort, for like flavor and convenience. Um, we want to turn people who heat things up into cooks. And there was a TV show a while back called The Worst Cooks in America or something like that. Have you ever seen an episode of that where people would literally boil pasta that they would burn pasta that they were boiling? I mean, it was just this was laughable. It was The Worst Cooks in America or something like that. It was on the Food Network. And the truth is, everybody can learn how to make good food. You just have to, number one, believe that you're worth that. And when we talk about eating intentionally, we'll talk about setting a place at the table for you, just for you. If you're the only one there, set the place. Don't stand at your counter and wolf down food. respect yourself, care about yourself, and believe you're worth it. So these people who basically, and I've had adults who ate nothing but drive-through fast food. Can you imagine? Nothing but drive-through. Oh, mix it up with a pizza once in a while. And it's like, this is garbage. This isn't even really food. It's not. I'm wondering why they're not sick. They certainly are metabolically sick, but that's another.
Or they're surprised that they're sick.
Well, yeah. Oh, I eat. They'll tell you that they eat healthy because it says healthy on the Cheerios box. I'm sorry. Mm-mm. All right. Anyway, so there are recipes online. You can just put in anything you want to know how to cook. Just put in the word keto in front of it and type recipe after it, and there will be somebody on YouTube showing you how to make that thing. Even ketchup. Ketchup is quite high in sugar, by the way. I encourage them to try new things. I encourage them to experiment, to start off small. I could easily, honestly, easily take people through a 10-week course in healthy cooking, healthy home cooking, easily, because these recipes are simple, they're not hard. And once you learn a certain few procedures, it works. The thing is that when you're looking at those keto recipes, they're using scales. They're, you know, often they're using temperatures that are in Celsius, not Fahrenheit. And people get intimidated, they get confused, and they expect what they do to look like what they produced on that video. And it just doesn't work that way. So if you have someone who says to you, I don't like vegetables, I'll tell you why. And the truth is that if they're baby boomers and they come from a place other than Southern California, their vegetables went scarce in the wintertime. And their mother had canned vegetables, canned corn, canned peas, canned green beans, canned spinach, heated it up, put it on the table, and it was disgusting. They don't know how to prepare vegetables. I have no idea. I was very lucky. I grew up in an Italian family. My mother knew how to cook everything. And I learned a lot from her. But you have to be able to think outside the box. And if they're not willing to do it, one of the things, that woman who never came back, she told me she didn't want to cook. And I told her that we would have to look then at those pre-packaged meals, those meal plans where you order the food and that comes in a frozen box. I said, if you don't want to cook, then we have to look at the ingredients and we have to look at the carbohydrate counts. And I fully expected her to learn and realize that what she was eating in a frozen meal was basically restaurant food. Restaurant food is basically frozen food in an American restaurant. And I don't know about other kinds of restaurants, but for example, if you go into a Chinese restaurant and you're ordering beef and broccoli, it's not just beef and broccoli. Right. There's cornstarch in there. There's maybe likely in the sauce sugar, or other parts of that sauce are sugar. I will tell you, every time I've eaten Chinese food while I was testing my blood, it spiked my blood. And I wasn't eating the rice. I was basically eating the meat and the vegetables, but it was the sauce. So you need to know these things. And it doesn't mean you can't have it ever, but it does mean you have to know what you're doing when you do it. Okay. So let's go into now the first full session. We're going to call this stage 1. There are not 10 stages. Sessions 3 through 7 are probably all stages 3 and 4. Okay. So stage 1, the first full session, we're going to get started. The client comes in and we're going to spend about half of our time just talking and getting what we missed from the other opportunities. So we might want to set a more aggressive goal. You don't have to, but I think it's worth it. You don't have to listen to me. I'm going to look at other measurable goals, and I call them stealthy goals because I'm not telling them that we're going to measure them. So if I have a diabetic client who says that they have peripheral neuropathy in their feet, I'm going to ask them, how is that right now? Are you feeling it right now? Oh, yeah. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 meaning I don't feel it at all, and 10 meaning I'm going to crawl out of my skin, where are you right now? And they'll say, oh, 5. I write it down. It's a stealthy goal. It's not something I'm telling them about. Because later, perhaps if it's taking a long time and they're getting discouraged, I might pull that goal out because I'm going to check it every time. I might pull that goal out and I'd say, do you realize that your peripheral neuropathy on our first session, you said it was 5. And for the last 3 sessions, it's gone down to 1. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay. So, and they might, like, I'm always hungry. Are you? Okay, then let's measure that. All right, alternative or additional goals. I want to focus always on the positives. So these stealthy goals, because they're almost the same thing, they're things that I'm putting in my notes. I'm writing them down. I know I'm going to review them before I go into the next session because I want to see how they're doing. I don't know that they're going to lose weight rapidly. Some people do. If they're diabetic, generally, though, we see the blood sugar coming down before the weight loss. May not be always, but generally. So we're going to measure those goals too. But and we want to find out remember we talked about it a little earlier, finding out what their real goals are. And I call them here on this slide secondary goals. But if you think about secondary, gosh, what do we call it in hypnosis?
Secondary gain.
So secondary gain. The word was out of my. If you think about secondary gain, that could be a negative. In I want to be more beautiful, but why do you want to be more beautiful? The thing is that's not what they want. It might be, but chances are they want to be more attractive so that they can get dates, or they want to feel better in their clothes, or they want to be able to go into a real store, not the big and fat store, but they want to go to the regular section in the store and buy regular clothes without having to try them on, knowing that they're going to fit. And that is the kind of thing that we're going to pull out of the client and we're going to use in our future pacing. And every session should have a little bit of attachment to the long-term goal. Every session. Attachment to the long-term goal. And just imagine, in a little while, you'll be able to walk into Macy's or Ross Dress for Less or TJ Maxx and find something on the rack and look at the size and know that it will fit if you want it. And that's an amazing thing, particularly for a fat person. And just imagine what it would be like to be able to pick up something that says one size fits most and know that it's going to fit you. Now, if you've never been fat, you don't know that one size fits most is bullshit. All right. When you have to shop at the big and tall store like I did, one size fits most is laughable. All right. So, what are we trying to accomplish in that first session? Apart from the hypnosis, we want to introduce them to key concepts, that is macronutrients, glucose, insulin, that relationship, and insulin resistance. So the macronutrients, of course, protein, fat, and carbohydrate. The glucose and insulin resistance, the higher your blood glucose chronically, the higher your insulin will be chronically. Insulin resistance is chronically high insulin. It develops out of chronically high insulin. And the more insulin you keep, the more insulin resistant you become. The more insulin resistant you become, the more insulin you need. The more insulin you need, the more insulin resistant you become. So we've got to bring that down. And we do that through the metabolic law of averages. The metabolic law of averages is, very simply, the body will cope with or compensate for extremes. It will adjust to averages. We want our body to adjust, not compensate. And the clearest example of that is, of course, when you go and you work out really hard and you leave and you buy a smoothie. All right? That's sugar. I'm hungry. I'm starving. You're only starving because you don't do that often enough. All right. And for the first week, between sessions 1 and sessions 2, they're going to change absolutely nothing about what they eat, how much they eat, or when they eat it. Nothing. I had one client who said that was the hardest week of this. The hardest week of the program, because she said, I was always hungry. It's Michaela. You can see her on the website. She gave me a testimonial. So, but I don't think that's the hardest. The thing is, we want to know what we're working with. All right. On the other hand, we're going to change a few little things. We are going to teach the client how to track their natural fast, their fasting blood glucose, and their steps. If they are if they're not diabetic, they don't have to track their fasting blood glucose. But if they are diabetic or pre-diabetic, they have to track their fasting blood glucose. So the natural fast, remember those questions? What time do you go to bed? What time do you take your last? I asked you to do that. What's your average natural fast? Mitzi, you go first.
About 14 hours.
About 14 hours. Is it 14 hours minimum or is it 13 hours minimum?
No, 14 hours minimum.
Okay, all right. And Chrissy?
Mine was 13.
13. Okay. So we would want to get them up to 16 or 18, right? So we would take that information. Now they're going to track it for a week. You just did. And now you know what your real natural, your weekly average natural fast is. You can add to that simply by saying, but that's session 2, you're simply by saying, okay, I'm going to wait at least 13 hours, or I'm going to wait at least 14 hours, or I'm going to wait at least 15 or 14 and a half. And you figure it out. from the last bite or sip. If you take another bite or sip, that delays your first bite or sip the next day. Okay, and you're going to show them. There's a form coming up. I'll show you. And we also want them to do their fasting blood glucose before their first bite or sip of the day. Right before it. Not when they wake up, but right before it.
Would that include right before your first sip of coffee? Black,
What's in the coffee?
black.
Oh, no. No.
That
If
doesn't.
there is sweetener, creamer, if there's, listen, if it's just half and half, I don't really count that. But if it's like some sort of hazelnut creamer or something like that, or some artificial sweetener, I count it. I count it because it's going to spike it might spike your insulin, and we want to avoid that. So the fasting blood glucose right before their first bite or sip, and we could call it a caloric bite or sip because they understand that. But honestly, if it's 100% fats, like if they made themselves, you've probably heard of bulletproof coffee.
Mm-hmm.
We don't count it because the fat is not going to stimulate blood glucose. All right. So we want to do that. And then every day, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has a free pedometer on their cell phone. If they don't, they can download it. What were my steps today? What were my steps tomorrow? I'm just going to write them down. No judgment, no minimums, no bullshit 10,000 steps a day. I just want to know what I'm working with right now. Okay? In terms of plating food, or in terms of food, from this point forward, everything they're going to eat must be on a plate. I don't care if it's potato chips, popcorn, Oreo cookies, makes no difference, on a plate. If they want more, they have to take a picture of it and send it to me. And if they want more, they have to take another picture and send it to me.
So send everything.
Send everything. And I provide for them either a Dropbox file or a share file in Google, whichever you're more comfortable with. A shared file in Google Drive. And I have them separated as week 1, week 2, or session 1, session 2, session 3, all the way to session 10. Okay? And they have to, if I have to show them how to do that, I have to show them. So they have to upload the pictures. And if I were you, I would put in the caveat that that you're free to use those as long as you don't identify the person. Because if you like create a newsletter and you want to talk about a particular meal, and I don't do this, but if you want to talk about a particular meal and say, let's examine this meal, you would need permission to use that picture. Okay. And so, and then we want to talk about eating intentionally. That means, if you recall from the foundation training, eating intentionally means setting a place, sitting down to eat without distraction and focusing on the food. And one more element, telling your body, I'm going to eat now. This is important because we have a lot of automatic functions in our body. And when you open the refrigerator to see what's in there, you are clandestinely sending a message to your pancreas, your liver, and your stomach, I might eat. And they might change their chemistry in response. This is called the cephalic insulin response.
Can
I
you
do
say
talk
that? Can you say
cephalic,
that?
C
No, I know
E.
how to spell that, but can you
Oh.
say the thing about why to say I'm going to eat now?
Because we are training our body to not do those habits until we say we're going to eat. We've been trained to graze.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So if I sit down and I say in Italian, buon appetito, means I'm not going to eat until I say buon appetito. I'm
Okay.
really, even if I'm tasting while I'm cooking, I'm not eating until I say buon appetito. Or
So
it could be in Japan, it was itadakimasu. In French, it's bon appetit. If you're in a trailer park and you're a vet, it's over the lips, past the gums, look out stomach, here it comes. I mean, it could be anything that says, I'm going to eat now. In religious families, nobody's allowed to eat until they hold hands and thank God for the food. It's called grace.
so
Go ahead, Missy.
so no, I'm sorry. So does that mean then, okay, so I'm going to eat now, meaning that if they used to snack, then that's not
Well, we're not snacking.
at
We're
all.
going to cut out the snacking eventually.
Okay.
But for right now, we want to focus on the meals. We want them to be whole meals. We want to focus on the meals. We want to eat until we are satisfied. And we want to express intentional eating so that we are training our body to make our brain body mechanism. The mind is the one now doing the training. We're going to train the brain body mechanism. Remember, they operate automatically. We're training them to not do those extra processes
Until I say
until I
I'm
say
eating.
I'm going to eat.
Got it. Thank you.
So if I eat without saying that and I eat enough, I can make myself sick if my body's trained. I want to make sure that I am consciously eating when I eat, not unconsciously eating.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So the value of taking pictures. Of course, how everything on a plate. If you go back, take another picture. If you want seconds, you can always have seconds. Upload them to the session folder. But why? And people will tell you amazing stories. Because I was taking pictures of my food, I practiced plating things in more decorative ways. And amazing. People will tell you things like, yeah, I probably could have eaten more Oreo cookies, but I knew I had to take a picture, so I talked myself out of it. Okay. So there's all of that going on in the background of this process, and it's amazing. I cannot tell you how many people have said to me, just taking the pictures made a difference. And this is instead of the eating journal. And it wasn't even my idea. I had a client. She said to me, I hate this eating journal. Can I just take pictures? And I said, brilliant. Yes. All right. Go ahead, Mitzi.
The taking the pictures is 1000% quantum mechanics. The observer changes everything because we know that there's some sort of accountability and observer out there, whether it's us, our higher self, the lens of the camera itself, or Joseph Onesta waiting for our pictures to come. The observer changes everything. It does help us make better informed decisions.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
Absolutely. It is key and critical. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about what happens when people don't take pictures, but that's another thing. So
I love that. I love that assignment that you gave us. I never,
that's great. We're going to
I
look at
love,
your pictures. I'm going to show you what I do with them.
oh my, okay. I
All
might
right.
not be back.
Oh my. Uh, all right. So why? We get that visual representation of the macronutrient representation. One of the things we're going to do is identify the carbohydrates on this. And that's important because people don't think. Like they'll look at fried chicken and say that's protein. But if it's breaded fried chicken, it's carbohydrate and some protein. All right. It's not the protein. There is a bit of self-conscious constraint. Like I talked about the people who say, I wanted more Oreos and I knew I'd have to take this picture. I didn't want to do it. Okay. So it wasn't worth those Oreos weren't worth, and I love that. It's not worth eating. It's a critical concept that happens. It's not worth eating those 3 cookies. It's not worth taking the picture it's not worth eating the 3 cookies if I have to take the picture. That's it. It's not worth it. Well, if it's not worth it, why do you want them anyway? Let's deal with that. Okay, so it also, if you see 4 or 5 pictures with 3 Oreo cookies on it, then you know that Oreo cookies are a slippery slope. All right, and that's the point. It's like these are a problem for you.
I
Mitzi.
think there's a word. It might be a Japanese word. Kuchisabichi. Have you ever heard of it? Kuchisabichi. It
No.
means am I eating because I'm hungry or because my mouth is lonely? Kuchisabichi. Am I eating?
Samishi, not sabichi, samishi.
Oh, kuchisamishi. Okay, got it. All right, thanks. So yeah, am I eating because I'm hungry or my mouth is lonely? Like,
Yeah, that's sweet. That's very sweet. Especially when Japanese food is really hard. I have to say, you can't eat Japanese food without knowing what you're doing. You can't cook it unless you know what you're doing. And it's not easy. So, but they also have like as many different flavors of potato chips as we could imagine and more. All right. So we want to increase intentional eating. That this is going to happen as we do this because we are going to be aware of each plate and we're going to sit down with each plate, right? We're just becoming more aware. We are no longer eating unconsciously. Excuse me. Okay. So this is what the client tracking form looks like. I will post PDFs of full forms and instructions with these videos so you can download them. I can tell you that the person who made these, and I made them, well, I told them what I wanted and I wanted the things to calculate. They didn't do it right. And I don't know how to fix that. So what they're going to do is write down today's date, yesterday's last bite, today's first bite, the number of fasting hours. This is the important thing. The fasting blood glucose right before that first bite. And when they go to bed, how many steps is on their pedometer. Now, there's another column for minutes. And this is later when people are doing intentional activities, like I'm taking, I'm working with my bands, or I'm on a bicycle, an exercise cycle. We're not going to count the one that you walk on because it's just steps. But and later, the thing is they're going to increase in their energy. And when they have more get up and go, they'll want to get up and go and they'll start looking for things. And so I've had clients, opt for things like ballroom dancing lessons. I've had clients, I remember the first time I ran in like 30 years. It was during COVID. I was going to one of my offices. I had 2 at the time. 2 buses. And as my bus pulled in, you have to switch. I saw my switchy bus in front. And if I missed that bus, I'd have to wait an hour to an hour and a half. So I literally, without even thinking, I ran like 2 blocks and got to get on the bus. And I got in, I sat down, and I thought, holy shit, I just ran like a block and a half, 2 blocks. I haven't run in 30 years. I used to boast I wouldn't run if you were chasing me with a knife. I'd rather turn around and fight you. And it just occurred to me, it's like, how did that happen? It's what I would have done when I was a teenager. How did that happen? It was that increased get up and go. Increase. So every week they're doing this. We're looking for the weekly average. If there's more than 1 week between sessions, they're going to have 2 or 3 of these versions. We're gonna have their name. We're gonna know the dates. We're gonna know which, and we're gonna track that information. In the next slide, there's this. And so I can, if I enter the date here, this represents 1 week. I used to track waist size, but nobody ever did it, so I don't ask anymore. It is a viable measure, by the way, but people just don't do it.
When do you ask them to do the weight? Like first thing in the morning?
When they have to do it the day that they're coming in, or the day that we're going to meet.
Yeah, but
And
is
you
it
shouldn't
first thing
do
in
it.
the morning or does it matter?
I don't care.
Okay.
I really don't care.
Okay.
It's like most people want to do that naked, so it's going to be in the morning. I don't have a scale in my office. I don't want anybody getting naked in my office to weigh workouts. So it's like and I'm not into fat shaming anybody, but I can have one of these for every week, or I can have one of these for every session and only use the last one. On another thing, I'm going to write down the weeks because I'm interested in that trajectory. I want to see how each person progresses. Is it this, then this, then that, then that, then that, then that, then that? Or is it this, that. You see what I mean? I want to see that. But they don't need to see that. All they need is this to give me the information I need to fill out this.
Oh,
So
this is mine. This is my form, not theirs
yeah,
to fill
yeah.
out.
And if you want to make your own, you can, right? But for me, this is what I use. The weight, the average fasting blood glucose goes AFBG, average natural fast, and then the average steps for that week. The average daily steps for that week. Remember, the metabolic law of averages works on averages. So we're looking at weekly averages. Our goal is to see that average fasting blood glucose come down week after week. We're going to look at the average natural fast to increase until 16 to 18 and stay there. The steps should increase until they need something else.
How come you're not averaging, you're not taking the average minutes?
Oh, that's the empty spaces. So if they're on minutes, I have 2 empty spaces. I might put I might write peripheral neuropathy and put 5. Then down here, peripheral neuropathy 3. And then the minutes is when they're actually doing something. They're doing the gym, they're doing, something intentional.
Sure.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have Taekwondo lessons. Those are an hour, so it's 60 minutes of activity. Yeah. On Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I play pickleball with my friends. that's an hour and a half, so it's 90 minutes on those days.
And but that you, with those cardio stuff, you can easily track the steps. That's what you would
Right.
want, right? Not
Yeah,
minutes.
well, if it's like what do they call that? I'm walking on it. What
The,
my brain?
the
Treadmill.
treadmill,
A treadmill.
the
If it's a
treadmill.
treadmill, I don't count that. Okay, because it's steps and it's being tracked. But if they're riding a bike, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, you can't ride a real bike, and lose weight, because half the time you're not even pedaling. So it's like, all right, you rode your bike for an hour, great. You played pickleball, great. You went bowling. Half the time when you're bowling, you're sitting down. But at least you're doing something,
Mhm.
right? And then what stage are they in? Because they're only going to progress from stage to stage when they're ready. So stage one is we're not changing anything, we're just learning how to track. When we get to stage two, we're really looking at making cuts and increasing the natural. So we're cutting carbohydrates and we're increasing the natural fats. Okay. So just a brief aside about the book. These slides are there for you. Those books, they are available paperback, Kindle, and Audible. They're on Amazon. You can buy them for them or tell them to go buy them. But when they're in stage one, this is going to save you a lot of time. Because
what program book? Are these the one you were telling me earlier about
yes,
learning to
yeah,
be?
Life Without Obesity and Life Without Diabetes.
Thank you.
So in stage one, they're reading chapters 1 through 6. In stage 2, chapters 7 and 8 in general. Stage 3, chapters 9 and 10. Stage 4, chapters 11 and 12. Your whole time with them is going to be in these first 4 stages unless they move very quickly. Stage 5 is maintenance. So it's 13 to 15. So, but each book is almost identical except for the blood glucose. Okay.
And is the book, are you the author of the book?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if they buy the book, I probably get something like $1.25. So I want you to know I'm not making a lot of money there. I can order them, I would say groups of 10 each, and get them cheaper. But because I have to pay, I don't think I can ship them to you. I think I have to ship them to me, and then I have to ship them to you.
You can ship them to me. You put in
How
my,
can I ship?
wait, I just have friends done that for me. You just, when you buy it, you put in the delivery address is my address. It comes to me. You'll get the notification when it arrived. And I
Okay.
also, on the receiving end, will get notices from Amazon to expect my book on this day, that day, and this day.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
get a picture of it and everything as if I bought it myself. So you can
Okay.
absolutely ship it to me.
So good. Thank you for telling me that. If that's the way, then it ends up being cheaper even for you. But I have Amazon Prime, and I have to pay that postage. It's not part of my Prime. So, and it's not cheap. Like it's not cheap. So I have to figure it out. If you want to order like 10 of each, I can figure that out and have them sent to you.
Seems
That's
like it'd be
fine.
simpler if the client just ordered them themselves.
Right, right,
That's a
right.
simpler way.
Absolutely. But then you're not giving it to them. You know what I mean? Like I have them in my office and I hand them the book. I say, here, welcome to the program.
Yeah, I don't have an office. I'm all telehealth.
Oh, right. Okay. So
Yeah,
then
so I won't be able to even do that.
you tell
We
them, get the
closed
book.
it down because of COVID.
Yeah. If you, you know, with my online clients, I actually discount their price for the price of the book. Like, I think it's $20. I can't remember because it's been a while. But I discount the price they're paying me, saying normally I give this to, but makes them feel
So
good.
your class will be, it's okay for me to do that telehealth, correct? Via telehealth?
Why not?
Okay, I didn't think it'd be a problem, but just
Yeah,
wanted
I
to.
mean, I don't know. I'm not a telehealth person. So I don't know, but you know what you're doing when we're gonna when clients need to talk to their doctors, I coach them and I tell them how to talk to their doctors. Um, Listen, doc, I'm starting a program to get better control over my blood sugar. It involves it involves diet and nutrition and exercise, a diet and exercise program. But I need to talk to you about, you know, I might have to like change my dosage eventually. So what do I do? And the doctor may ask more questions, but if you just say diet and exercise, they're pleased with that. And that's exactly what we're doing. They can add in, it does a little bit of intermittent fasting. And because most people think of intermittent fasting as the natural fast, it's not a big problem. And you have to be aware that when you go 24 hours, if they're taking medications that can lower their blood sugar, that's a there's a zone of danger there, a little bit of danger zone. Okay. Now, before we move on to session 2, do we need a break? 10 minutes?
I'm okay either way.
All right. I certainly am going to stop the recording because this one has gone on long. So hold on.